Welcome to Tiny Travelers, brought to you by Baby Quip, the family travel podcast where we make traveling with little ones easier, smarter, and more fun. I'm Sarah, a travel-loving mom who knows the joys and chaos of exploring with little ones. Each week, we dive into parent-tested strategies, travel hacks, and honest advice on what really works with kids. So buckle up, grab your travel planner, and let's make your next family adventure unforgettable. Pack light, travel happy. Welcome back to Tiny Travelers, brought to you by Baby Quip, the podcast where we talk about traveling with kids and honestly traveling through life with kids too. I'm Sarah Huff, gear expert at Baby Quip and host of Tiny Travelers. Around here, we talk about family travel, baby gear, parenting logistics, and all the real life things that come up once kids enter the picture. Today's guest is someone who spends a lot of time helping parents navigate one of the biggest overwhelm moments of early parenthood, figuring out what baby gear they actually need. Taylor Vanderwolk is a baby gear expert and registry consultant who helps families prepare for parenthood with clarity and confidence. She works with parents to build smart registries, understand what gear truly fits their lifestyle, and avoid buying things they won't actually use. Taylor, welcome to Tiny Travelers.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm such a big fan of your podcast.
Oh, fantastic. I love that. Well, before we get started on all the things that have to do with you, let's dive in and start with a travel question, since we talk about travel a lot on this podcast. When families travel with babies or toddlers, they often realize pretty quick that they brought way too much stuff or they wanted to bring too much stuff. From your perspective as a gear expert, what are some of the biggest overpacking mistakes families make when traveling with kids?
I would say that the biggest overpacking mistakes would be the things that are just going to be not practical. So your full-size stroller, uninstalling your convertible car seat and shipping that. And yes, I understand that you know how to use it and, the quality of the product, but some things you just cannot bring with you across state lines, or you shouldn't, even if you can.
That's true. There's a lot of things that you shouldn't bring across state lines. What are some items that parents think that they're going to need, but usually don't?
That's a good one. I would say that the most underused piece of baby gear while traveling that parents get a little bit surprised about would be, honestly, a pack and play. I would say that parents think that their child is going to be a lot more relaxed in an environment that they are not, in all the time. So they will bring that pack and play, which are very big. Pack and plays, there are basically two categories of pack and plays. There's the more structured type, and now there's the more travel friendly, super lightweight, super compact pack and plays, which are great. But really, if we're only talking about an infant, if we're looking at toddlers, they're probably going to sleep in the bed with you. They're not going to be listening to you and sleeping when you want them to sleep. They're excited. They're in, a different environment. That's why things like the slumber pod, are really great. But still, if they're not sleeping in the slumber pod all the time, that's going to be a new environment. So that's going to make them excited. So there's so many different things. And, just trusting yourself and knowing your child is really, the key.
That is so funny that you bring that up, because I was just talking with somebody earlier today about traveling with kids. And even though I'm, a baby gear expert and I rent baby gear and all that kind of stuff, I was like, I never brought a pack and play with me or rented a crib when we got to vacation, because my kids would want to sleep in the bed with me anyways. And then we would have like a wasted other sleeping space. So, yeah, I'm a big proponent of yes, pack and play, but only for a certain age group. And after that, and even sometimes during that, they might not want to use it.
100%.
It's not a crib.
It's not a crib. It's not. And once they get a little bit bigger, they can't escape it. It's not that, structured that they will be able to. It's not a place where you can just put them. They're not puppies. You can't just put them in a pack and play.
That's true. Is there an item that you think is worth bringing every time?
A baby monitor. I think every parent should have a non-Wi-Fi, because you don't know if wherever you're going is going to have Wi-Fi connection. Your friends might not be comfortable with you using their Wi-Fi, whatever the situation is. But just an audio one. It doesn't even have to be a video. And just lives in the diaper bag. You always have it, because what a lot of parents forget is even when you're traveling, and when I say traveling, I mean leaving the house. I don't mean getting on an airplane. I mean just walking around. So you're going to your friend's house. You're going to your parents' house. You're going wherever. Baby's going to have to take a nap. That's great. You get to catch up with your friend, drink a coffee, but baby still has to be monitored during that nap. And you don't want to have to, uninstall your whole Nanette or bring your Owlet with you everywhere you go. So just having that audio one is great.
Yes. Honestly, having an audio monitor that does not connect to Wi-Fi is one of the best recommendations that I've heard, because you always think, okay, more bells and whistles, better. Not necessarily, especially if you go to a hotel where you can't be on 5G, whatever that means. Like the Wi-Fi is not working, or you don't know the password, or whatever the case is. So yes, audio monitor, no Wi-Fi. That's a great piece of advice. Okay, so let's talk about baby gear overwhelm in general. One thing that I hear from parents and, in parenting forums and all that kind of stuff is that the baby gear world feels overwhelming. There are a lot of products and a lot of products in each category. When parents come to you for registry help, what stage are they usually at in terms of, what they're buying, where they are emotionally, what they need help with?
So I would say that probably 99% of my clients are in the exact same mental state of mind, which is complete overwhelm. And because the industry, it's how they feed the marketing. This industry really does live in the marketing and just in case, what if I need this later on? And that's kind of the trap that people fall into when they start planning for something that isn't their situation, but they're planning for somebody else's situation.
Or something they've heard could happen at some point.
For me, I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. Half of the year, I don't even go outside because it's so hot. It is not very, treacherous terrain. It's really flat. I'm also 5'2", so I don't think I would need a full-size stroller. I would probably just get a travel stroller as my primary.
Yep, exactly.
So
exactly. That's a great
specific to the person, to their life, where they live. There's so many different factors that people don't even consider. Something that might, make me think about getting a full-size stroller is that I do have 2 dogs that I walk. So I want to make sure that I can push my stroller with one hand and still have enough control to walk my dog with the other hand. That would be a little harder with a lightweight travel stroller.
That's true. That's true. And, something I tell people, this relates to packing for traveling and stuff too, is go through your day. Just what are you doing? When do you get up? What do you do after you get up? Do you have to have coffee? Are you making the things? Are you walking the dog? Do you work from home, or do you have to go somewhere? Are you taking the baby to daycare? Are you there's so many different factors in your day, and everybody's day is different. So you're going to need different stuff.
One thing I like to always ask is, how much of a walker are you? Are you a walker? Because if you're not a walker, I don't really imagine you're going to have a baby and then be like, oh, I feel like going for a stroll today. He already walks. So just making sure that you are, buying for your life and being real with yourself. Intention is great. I want to do this. I want to do that. Awesome. But let's be realistic. And I think that also comes with bottles and, how much of the sanitation, sterilization and things you want to, focus on, especially with traveling.
Exactly.
It'd be harder. You can't bring, the baby Bereza sterilizers and all of that. So
fortunately, you can rent that at your destination if the baby Bereza is on your must-have list.
Mm-hmm. But I've actually seen the microwave bags. I don't know if you've seen those that you can sterilization microwave bags, which
yes, I did when I was breastfeeding. They had those,
and I don't know why people wouldn't use those for every day instead of just travel. It just makes more sense to me personally.
Right.
But yeah, that's another one.
Yeah, you just gotta listen to your day. Let your day tell you what gear you're gonna need. What makes baby registries so overwhelming for parents?
Oh, I would say, just all the noise. There's so much noise coming from, media, from influencers, from different brands, and all of them are trying to pull you in with these different promises, right? And all these different we'll give you a welcome box. We'll do this, we'll do that. But then when you actually go to get it, you have to do A, B, C, and D to be able to get the free gift. And then you're even more confused because you just go down a little, rabbit hole. So really just, knowing what you're buying with intention and understanding what you're buying, what it does and why you're buying it. So instead of, just buying something because it's what everybody has, you should definitely make sure that it's something that is going to be suitable for your life.
Yeah, that's great advice. Let's see. Do you see people over-registering or under-registering most often?
I would probably say under-registering.
Interesting.
I would. I think people get in a place where they feel uncomfortable for asking for too much, and they look at it more as people are going to be judging them based on, how can you ask for a $500 high chair from your friends? And, it's almost like you have to have your just manners in check when you do baby registry. I've had people have multiple baby registries, one for family, one for friends, one for coworkers. But it's an art. I have, I wrote a piece called The Art of the Registry because it truly is an art. And I always suggest that you start with the nursery. You start with those really big box items, the crib, the recliner, the topper, the dresser, because these are going to be your biggest, priced items, and they're also going to have the longest lead times. So they're going to take the longest to get there. Biggest price, which means reward points that you can use on other items. A lot of these reward points that are offered, they have exclusions. So you can't get free stuff really from them. If stuff's on sale or if it's under $50, blah, blah, blah. But you can use them towards bigger priced items. So you can use it towards your stroller. You can use it towards that car seat, and really just figuring out the best way to implement the points, timing it so it all aligns, and then making sure that you're getting that completion discount at the end, and also getting those points from your baby registry. So if people are buying something for you off your registry, who's getting those points?
Who's getting those points, Taylor?
Points. Nobody's getting those points. The answer is nobody is, and you should be. So make sure that they put in your email. That is all they have to do, and you will get the points.
Oh my gosh, there is an art to the registry.
There sure is an art to the registry.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad we had you on. Okay. What are some of the biggest misconceptions about what babies need?
I would say infant car seats is the biggest surprise to everybody, to know that that is a purely ease of use product. And you're not going to be using it for very long either. Year max. So I have a couple of families that don't even get an infant car seat. I had one family that was based in Minnesota, due in December. They told me they would not leave the house for 3 months. Easy.
Right.
I was like, then get a convertible car seat from the beginning, because at 3 months, baby's going to have that neck support. Take him out of the convertible into the stroller. Mm-hmm. And if the stroller has a full recline, look at that.
Even better.
Spending $600 on, a Nuna car seat, they can put that towards a stroller or the convertible car seat that's going to last multiple years instead of multiple months.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, honestly, a lot of convertible car seats go from 5 pounds up, or maybe even 4 pounds up. So unless you really have like a special circumstance, or, that infant car seat clicks right into your stroller base, or you've had one, or whatever the case is, it's not necessarily something that you need right away or at all.
Exactly. And that's something I would say definitely surprises people. It is for ease of use, but with that being said, it is very, very convenient to not wake the baby. So I do highly recommend always getting an infant car seat, but I always like to reinforce you don't absolutely need it. So absolutely do not buy a second base for a secondary car.
Got it. Yes, because you can use an infant car seat without a base.
You can use it without a base. And also, you are not going to be using that infant car seat for more than a year. So once you get down the road, you're going to have 2 bases and an infant car seat that you are going to have to figure out what to do with.
Right.
And you're going to have to buy 2 new car seats to go in primary and secondary car. What I always recommend is getting the infant car seat, having that in primary car for the first couple of months, getting the convertible car seat. I usually suggest a 360 swivel, putting that.
Which 360 do you like?
I've been a fan of the Calesto, sorry. And it's because it has that higher weight capacity. It used to be the Rev. I used to love the Rev, and everyone used to always say, 40 pounds, it has that 40-pound weight limit. That's for a couple of reasons. That it's one of the smallest footprint 360s. So for a smaller car, the Rev is going to be the only one that might fit.
Right.
It's in that higher scale, at least. But the 40-pound weight limit gets a lot of people. I personally, when I look at infant or convertible car seats lasting from infancy all the way through, I don't think that's realistic. You're going to be ready for a new car seat after a couple of years because of how dirty they get. Freaking
men. I have had several car seats throughout my experience as a baby gear expert and with kids, and you're gonna have to replace it far before they outgrow it because it gets nasty unless you are getting them cleaned or you're cleaning them like once a week because just stuff goes down in that seat that you'd rather just
especially if you're using it when they're an infant, there's going to be the blowouts, the spit up, the throw up, everything. So that is kind of my fight for Nuna with the 40-pound weight limit is you're going to be ready for a new one. That the idea of having one car seat that's going to last forever, it's not. I like the idea for maybe a grandparent who has multiple grandchildren of multiple ages, so she can adjust it to whichever you might have at that specific time. But one car seat, one child, one for life, not going to happen.
Right. So put the car seat on the grandma registry.
Exactly.
She can get that one. I love that. Okay, just as a small segue, I'm just curious, what do you think about the Duna?
I am not a fan.
No, okay.
Not a fan at all.
I figured once I heard you were boo on the year because the Duna, you really have to do upgrade after they turn a year, even sometimes younger, depending on how big they are.
And then you have to get another stroller. So that's another, it adds to another list. The Duna. So before I got into baby gear, I was an engineer. So I respect it in the sense of it's cool, right? It's
right. And it's very well engineered. And it's, for the most part, it works pretty well.
It works, and I like the idea. It takes, I guess, an extra step out of the process. I think there could be some improvements. I think it'd be cool maybe if you could take the wheels off and put it on a full-size stroller if, you wanted to. There is the Duna X that's in Europe that does recline and it has a higher handle, but that's not going to be coming to the US for a couple more years.
Oh, spilling the beans on the Duna X.
The Duna X. But that one is better, I believe. But, essentially it's a infant car seat on wheels.
Yeah.
The car seat itself isn't the best car seat because of just the way it's built. There's a lot of plastic and the base is, just not a very hard base. It's a plastic base that you just use the tethers to latch it in. Mm-hmm. And your baby's not supposed to be in that position for longer than 90 minutes at a time. And you need to take the car ride into account. Right. So that is, I'm not a big fan of it. I think having a system like the, Nuna Travel and the Urban, Pippa Urban with the clip is a way more convenient way to actually travel with baby than the Duna, because then you really don't need a base. You just click it in. You don't need to do the seatbelt like you do with the Duna. And then you still have the stroller forever. It goes up to 50 pounds. So, and then with that infant car seat, you can reuse it on any brand's double stroller. You can put it on a Vista. You can put it on a Cybex Gazelle. You can put it on, a Bugaboo Donkey. So that is a really good, reason that I like the Urban. However, you can only get it in a travel system with the Nuna stroller. So I have sold a lot of, and they're smart with their coloring too, because you can only get it in specific colors with travel systems, with the Mix, the Triv, the Swiv, all of those. But with the Travel LX, they offer every color. So then you can buy your full-size stroller separately to match the Urban if you also get the Travel.
Okay, guys, it sounds like you might need to go to Taylor. Here, this might even be over my head, Taylor. My gosh. Okay, let's talk about building a registry that matches your life, because as you kind of entered with, it's really important to take a look at your life and decide like what baby gear is going to be necessary. And I love that you focus on that when you're helping parents choose gear, because that's based on their lifestyle, not just what people are saying you have to have for baby, because everybody's going to say you have to have this for their baby. So what are the first questions you ask parents when they're building a registry?
First things I ask are, who's going to be the primary person handling the gear, and not, day after, but 6 months down the road, after maternity or paternity leave, if there's going to be grandparents involved, if there's going to be a nanny, just really who are going to be the main players in the game. And it really is kind of like a game plan. We're making a blueprint. So it's, first, who are our players? And we have to figure out who they all are. And then we have to look at our environment. What does the house look like? How many different levels are in the house? Where is the nursery going to be? Are you doing a separate nursery or a shared bedroom nursery? How, there's so many different things. If the nursery is on the top floor and that's where your changing station is, you should probably have a changing station on the lower floor as well, so you're not always bringing baby upstairs to change the diaper.
Or do you need a diaper caddy to just bring with you throughout the house?
Exactly. Or just maybe 2 diaper pails, one on the upper level, one on the lower level. There's so many different ways. There's the, changing pads now that are silicone, so you don't need the topper to use it. You can put on any flat surface. So that's a great one, especially if you're short on space. Definitely. I like the Hatch one, because that one is actually a scale as well. So you can, do a daily weigh-in, and you don't even have to write it down. You can download
for the anxiety-ridden parents
and give it all to
paper, and also make sure that they've had enough growth.
Yes.
We've all been that anxiety-ridden parent. If you haven't been there yet, everybody has wished that they'd had a scale ready.
And, that kind of brings me over to the outlet and, the pros and cons of knowing too much sometimes.
Yep.
And the Owlet specifically, I love this product because I was a baby that had febrile seizures. So my parents, really would have helped them. Really. However, if your child is not, does not have a condition that needs to be closely monitored, I think it's a little too much information because they tell you everything. Also, it's not going to have an external monitor. It's actually only going to be on your cell phone. You have to open the app to actually get access to the camera. What if your phone's dead? What if you're on another call? There's so many. I like to wake up, glance over at the bedside table, go back to sleep. Not, oh my God.
I didn't even want to open my eyes. All I wanted to do was listen with my mom, like eagle bat ears, and just be like, what do I hear? Anything? No. Okay, back to bed.
Exactly. So, even pulling out that audio one, if you have something like the Owlet or Nana without the external monitor, that's fine. You can just get a secondary, use your travel one. That's going to be, that non-Wi-Fi one to have as a secondary, secure fence.
Exactly. I always tell people the more bells and whistles, the added Wi-Fi, the videos, the this aren't necessarily going to make your life better. Sometimes you just need to not know.
Absolutely.
And you'll take that through your life with the toddlers, with the teenagers, when they're adults too. Sometimes you just need to not know. What are some items that look real great on registries, but just often go unused?
Real great. I would say probably the most often thing I see on a registry, almost every registry, is going to be those Dr. Brown anti-colic bottles. And they're great. They are truly great for babies that have colic, which is a whole lot different than a baby that just cries a little bit. Anti-colic bottles are made specifically to prevent zero airflow from getting through, which is great. However, there's about 17 different little pieces that all have to be perfectly aligned when you put the top on. And if they're not perfectly aligned and you shake that bottle or give it to baby, and it's going to leak. It's going to go everywhere. And also cleaning it is really hard, cleaning all those tiny little pieces. So I always say, if you need Dr. Brown's, if you need to get a bottle with zero airflow, then that's something you should get later on. But at the beginning, start with just make your life easier and just start with, an easier bottle is not anti-colic.
And I mean, this isn't everybody's life, but truly my two babies never took a bottle in their life. So all those bottles I put on my registries and I bought and I looked at, and everything went to waste. Obviously I donated them then, so they didn't go to waste after that. But like my kids never took a bottle. So you just literally never know what your baby's going to be like until they pop right out. And so don't put too many of those types of we'll find out items on your registry.
Baby list, they actually have these new try kits, and they have they give you, I think there's a plastic bottle option, a glass bottle option. By the way, you are going to be using both. There's not one that is better than the other. And then they also have one for pacifiers, which is a great way to figure out which bottle your baby is going to like the best. So fun little fact that I learned actually just a couple months ago is that every single bottle company also makes pacifiers.
Makes so much sense. But if your babies are like mine and never took a bottle, they also never took a pacifier. So I was the complete kit and caboodle. I should put myself on the registry.
So wouldn't it have been nicer if you only had 4 or 5 bottles and you would have figured out that your kids weren't bottle kids instead of buying those entire bottles in every size, every flow nipple,
every cleaning kit, every oh my gosh, all the things.
They have a wipes try it kit, a wipes and diaper. Yes.
Man, they're kind of coming up with some good stuff.
And it's the smartest thing I think I've seen them do, especially those bottles and passies. Because
and honestly, wipes, some of them have different smells, and some of the smells I hated.
Yes.
And I could not
smell
it on my baby anymore.
100%. And you need to make sure that they're thick, especially if you're still breastfeeding. You know, babies poop when you're still, it's like tar. You know, you need to have a wipe that your fingers are not going to push through. And I'm loyal to Huggies. I really think Huggies
they do have very thick quilted.
They're very thick quilted, and they're, you know, wet enough that they just seem to get the job done. But
yeah, we're on the same page about that.
Another one.
Okay, so baby gear gets expensive quick.
Yes, it does.
What items do you think are worth investing your money into?
A high chair, I would say, is extremely important, and it's probably the most underrated piece of baby gear that people talk about, and the most used piece of baby gear.
For a very long time, too.
Exactly. We're talking 3 times a day, every day, forever. Or, you know, until they're feeding themselves. But in addition to that, it's also a place, you know, little girls, if you want to do their hair, getting them up high, you know, and having them just still. And
baby containment. I mean, it's like do whatever.
And you need to make sure that they are comfortable in their high chair, or they are not going to be, you know, happy
in there.
And exactly. So it's really important to have a great ergonomic high chair. You want to stick to that 90-90-90 rule. So having a 90-degree angle at their hips, at their knees, and a flat foot on the floor.
Oh, that's a really good piece of advice. Okay, say that again. 90-90-90.
90, so a hip, 90 degrees at the hip and the waist. At the knees, you want them to be bent and then straight down, and then flat feet on the floor. And that's going to be for not just, you know, digestion, but also for posture. Is going to be for if they're ever choking, you're going to be able to get to them the easiest that way. And also they're going to be able to eject whatever's inside of them if they have pressure.
Sitting up.
So there's just multiple reasons to have a very good high chair to invest in, because they are expensive when you look at ones that are actually ergonomic. And that means adjustable footrest and adjustable seat. Not just an adjustable footrest, because the seat will come down as well.
That is really so important. Okay, what are items that you think are better to like just skip altogether, borrow from somebody, or rent?
I would say bassinets are, you know, definitely a nice to have more than a need to have, and it's so easy to get those secondhand. They have nothing to do with safety. You're using them for about 3 months or until baby. Exactly. A pack and play is going to do the exact same thing as a bassinet. I've actually seen some pack and plays that now have a like roll down panel, so you can actually use it as a bedside bassinet with the panel rolled down, not just next to the bed. So, you know, definitely doing something that you're going to get years out of, like the pack and play instead of the bassinet. But the bassinet is good if you are in a very small area or if you travel a lot. There are some sleep, you know, overnight graded bassinets, which are great options if you travel with a newborn at least.
Or if you get a travel system with a bassinet, oftentimes those bassinets are approved for overnight sleep. So you can just use all of those. And it is a better option too if your baby's not sitting up on their own yet, to just have them recline flat.
100. So I say if you're going to do a bassinet, get the one that fits on your stroller. Don't just get a stationary one that serves zero other purpose. Because another thing that you can do is use your stroller inside. You can rock baby to sleep inside the house. You are allowed to roll the stroller.
It's inside, folks.
It can. And then also, if you're traveling, you can use the stroller frame as a bassinet stand sometimes to keep baby up higher in a hotel and up and off the floor. So literally just using that stroller as your bedside bassinet for the first couple of months. And also they will, you know, fold down pretty small, most of them, not all of them. So yeah, if you're going to get a bassinet, get the one that fits on your stroller and make sure it's overnight sleep approved.
And honestly, most strollers that have a bassinet, you can get a separate bassinet stand if you are so inclined, because you just do not want to bring your stroller into the house. That's fine too. But
a popular thing to find on Facebook Marketplace, offer especially Up a Baby and the Vista, because they're bassinet. So tons of people used to just brand new.
And you don't use it for very long. So people are like, bam, I got this thing. Now I got to put it on offer up because I don't need it anymore.
Exactly.
And how should parents think about longevity when choosing gear? Like, what stuff is going to last a long time? They're going to need it for a long time. And then what stuff is kind of transitionary?
Absolutely. I would say the first thing to consider is going to be, is your family growing? Is this going to be used for multiple children, or is, one and done type of situation? I know obviously nobody can see the future. So
actually I can, Taylor. That's going to be like the next question.
That's going to be the next episode.
Yeah.
With Sarah Huff.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Wait, hold on. Let me write that down.
But the crib, I would say I have seen the most drastic price difference in the simple crib. You can do a mini crib for as low as $150. Or you can do a beautiful 5-in-1 transitional convertible crib for as high as $3,000. So that is really going to be something about, personal preference. Are you going to be using this crib in a nursery that's going to be, a nursery for multiple children? Are you going to need a crib again? Because if you turn your crib into a bed, you need to buy another crib for your second baby that you need to turn into a bed, which is a lot more expensive than buying one crib and 2 beds later down the road.
Right. And honestly, convertible cribs sound so genius. You're like, yes, why wouldn't I turn this crib into a toddler bed for my toddler? But you won't. You won't. You'll lose those pieces immediately the second you put them in the garage. Those are gone.
You have to buy it all at once to make sure the pieces might not be, in the stores. They might be discontinued by the time you're turning it into a full-size bed.
Exactly. And guaranteed your 3-year-old is going to be like, no, I want the race car bed. Or I want the Minnie Mouse bed. And you're going to be like, well, this convertible crib wasn't going to be converted ever anyways. So yes, they sound so amazing and beneficial, but do you actually use them?
Exactly. So what are you paying? Are you paying for a feature that you are never going to use? Is essentially what you should ask yourself. And then you're kind of getting back into that, just in case marketing thing, that you, down the road, I might need this. When I think mini cribs are the most, brilliant thing that I've seen in a long time, especially now that, you can get the mattress cribs for mini cribs that are very firm, and there is no difference. It is the exact same thing, and they're on wheels. You can move them around. At this point, the standard crib is more of an aesthetic preference. People want a beautiful nursery.
Yeah, there's not too much difference in size and between a mini crib and a full-size crib. A mini crib has 12 slats. So if you guys are thinking slats on the side, and a full-size crib has 14. So that's like maybe another 12 inches or so. Your child's probably not going to grow a foot between, the ages of 2 and 3. Well, maybe, I don't know, unless you have like a really tall kid, but it's just kind of, you can buy stuff that fits your lifestyle that doesn't necessarily fit the mold of what you need for a baby.
Exactly. So I would say, but again, it's kind of that same thing that we talked about with the car seat, the one for life, that it could be a good use case for a different situation. Like, a grandparent who, you're going to be spending time with, but then later on they want to turn the nursery into a guest room. So they use that bed for a different reason. So again, it's just your personal lifestyle choices. And then the second thing, I would say, we start with the nursery, and then I would trying to think, what was the question? Actually, what
was the question? I forget what we were even talking.
I blinked. Yes.
But what? What should I think about longevity?
Oh, longevity. Okay, so yeah, I'd
We're
say
leaving it air hooks.
the crib, and then I would also say then we're going to talk about strollers, single to double strollers. Again, you can't see the future. I usually say if you have one child, you are having your first child, you're, one bun in the oven, you only need a stroller with one seat, because then essentially you are paying for a feature, the main feature, which you are potentially not ever going to use and definitely not using out of the box. So that's going to be, a call out right there to the Vista, to the Gazelle, to the Wave. There's so many, the Mockingbird. It's that just in case. What if I have another child? Then I'm going to have to buy another stroller. And with a single to double, they are so big. They are huge. And that's probably the number one thing I've heard parents say that they just left in the trunk, left in the garage, and ended up just buying a cheap umbrella stroller off Amazon. And that's, what happens when you buy those huge convertible strollers. The trend is changing. I would say a couple of years ago, it was all about the single to double jack of all trade strollers. Now it is as small as you can get.
With all the stuff, though.
Oh, yeah. Now we have bassinets that are going to fold on travel strollers and fit overhead.
Oh my gosh.
I like, that it's getting smaller for sure. It's a lot more practical, but it's still going to be, about your life. So I'd say with strollers and planning for longevity, thinking about the type of stroller you have and what it's actually going to take to turn it into a double. So a lot of strollers, there's modular and just convertible. So that means, is the seat going to interchange with the bottom seat? Are they the same seat, different seat? What's the weight capacity? So I would say when getting a single to double stroller, because you are planning on growing your family and planning to have another child, look for a stroller that has interchangeable seats with the same weight capacity, because that's just going to make your life a lot easier. And then let's say, you have a, Vista, and your sister has a Vista, and then your sister has a second baby, but you don't. You can't give her your seat, because they're different seats. But if you both had, let's say, the Cybex Gazelle, then you could give her your seat.
Oh, interesting.
With her, you can bring your seat and you guys can just use one stroller instead of two.
Oh, so that's smart, Taylor.
That is another reason to get a single to double. How many kids are in your life? How many friends do you have that have kids? What kind of strollers do they use? You want to see what your friends and family's already using, because they're going to pawn it off onto you. So whatever you have is going to be adaptable to whatever your friends use.
Exactly.
Especially if you spend a lot of time with them, So I definitely say preparing for not just, the children in your children, but the other children in your life, play dates and friends, cousins, grandparents. That's another reason. Might keep a double stroller at grandma's house when all the cousins come in for the summer, and you can just use one stroller. A wagon, maybe that should be at grandma's house. So
yeah, definitely keep all the wagons at grandma's house. Freaking huge.
They are huge.
I think once babies get here, then the SHIT hits the fan. Then everything becomes real, right? And life with a baby really involves more than just having the right gear. What advice do you give parents who are feeling overwhelmed by all the decisions, all the choices?
I would say
brands.
Back up, catch your breath and remember that you're not the only one that feels this way. Everybody feels this way. Even me, when I go in to do the shopping for a baby, I would be so overwhelmed because I probably know too much. And there's so it is something that, just give yourself a little bit of grace. This is not something that you can really do wrong. It's something you can accidentally spend way too much money on, but it's not going to be something you're going to do wrong.
Right. No, nobody's going to the world's not going to end if you get the wrong stroller. It's just going to make your life a little bit easier.
And you can always buy things after baby's already here, which is something that seems to,
What do experienced parents usually wish they had known when they were just in, a baby parent, didn't have a baby yet? They're just kind of exploring this all for the first time.
I would say the most common thing I hear where people are like, oh, I wish I would have known, or I wish I would have, would probably be the convertible car seat at the very beginning. And
honestly, that was one of the best pieces of advice that you've provided, was just get a convertible car seat.
And they're expensive. So you want to throw that on the registry so you can have multiple people help you and contribute towards them.
That's a good one. Yeah. Okay. So since this is Tiny Travelers, let's circle back to travel so that we can wrap it all up. Do you have any favorite travel gear that you think parents should have? Okay. She's got a lot, folks.
So my favorite, I would have to say, is going to be those Munchkin disposable portable diaper pails.
Yes, I love that.
Yes. Especially as someone that has worked in a baby store where a lot of diapers were changed and thrown into a trash can in the store.
Yes.
Oh, so bad.
So bad. Baby diapers go bad real quick.
Yes. So those diaper pails, amazing. I love them.
They are really great.
Another thing would be the earmuffs. I think Newbie does them for traveling.
Like headphones for babies. Noise reduction, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Those noise reduction earmuffs, really, really great. And okay, here's a good one. When you're doing a European travel, if you call the airline, there's something called an air bassinet. And they can install it in the airplane in the front. So you have to be sitting in the front of the plane, and then where there's no seat in front of you. And they can actually dock a bassinet for European travel. And it's called an air bassinet. And I think it's up to children 1 year old. And it's essentially where your tray would come down if you're in a normal seat, except they just anchor a bassinet right there.
Which is so cool. And what else are you going to do with the baby when you're on a plane? Where are you going to put him, on the floor?
A lot of people ask me that, is there anything that you can do? And that's kind of been what I've been researching lately. There's a couple of things on Amazon, like those canopies that you can hang from the what are they called? From the trays. But usually the airlines are going to tell you to take them off because they So I like the blow up mattresses, the couple of these companies do. But again, your child's usually going to be pretty excited on an airline, and it's going to be a little hard to get them to sleep. But there's definitely some great gear out there that can help support.
100%. And folks, if you're not sure what baby gear you need when you're traveling, you can always go to babyquip.com and search up all of the stuff that our wonderful providers have, and then shop for your trip that way, so you don't have to bring everything with you.
It makes so much more sense just to have everything ready for you when you get there, and maybe even things you didn't even know about. I find a lot of the stuff that I didn't even think I would need for travel on the Baby Equip website. You guys are such a great place for me just to keep educating myself to help parents. So thank you.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, you never know what kind of new gear is out there. Well, Taylor, this has been such a helpful conversation. I love anything that helps parents feel less overwhelmed when preparing for a life with a baby. Before we wrap up, where can listeners find you and learn more about your registry consulting services?
So you can find me at Taylor Made Baby Co., and that is going to be my private consulting services. And also I do free consults through the Target Baby Concierge. If you go to the Target website on the registry section, you can actually request a free either in-person or virtual consultation. In-person is about to be in over 200 stores nationally. Right now, this is just a pilot, so check online, and that's going to be Tot Squad and Baby Concierge. And I will give Sarah my direct link so people can book with me.
Yay! Everything will be directly in the show notes for you guys before, so that you can check everything out when you finish listening to this episode. Thank you so much for joining us today. And if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to Tiny Travelers so you don't miss future conversations about parenting, travel, baby gear, and navigating life with kids. Until next time, safe travels wherever life with kids takes you. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Tiny Travelers. I hope today's episode gave you the inspiration and practical tips to make your next family adventure easier, stress-free, and more fun. If you loved today's episode, head over to the show notes for promo codes and exclusive resources to help you plan unforgettable trips with your little ones. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Happy travels, and I'll see you next time.